Hi, welcome to Overthinking Entrepreneur. I'm Megan, and I've had a successful online business for a few years now, and I think I overthought probably about 90% of my decisions along the way. Honestly, I just overthought whether I should say 90% or pretty much every decision in this intro. So if you find that relatable, you are definitely in the right place. In this podcast, I will help you get out of overthinking and into action so that your online business can finally start growing. So this week, I actually had a completely different topic in mind, but I needed a reminder today that there are no rules when it comes to business. And I figured if I needed that reminder, a lot of you probably also need that reminder. So I want to tell you the story of what's been going on with me and why I needed the reminder, and then just help you figure out how this translates to your business and hopefully help you open your eyes to some ways where you've maybe been following someone else's rules and thinking that you have to do things a certain way just because someone else does it that way. And the beauty of being an entrepreneur is that this is your business and you get to decide how it works. And just because someone else does it a different way doesn't mean that that is the only way. And a lot of times what I found is that it's not even that someone else is doing it a certain way or has told us that we have to. We've assigned these arbitrary rules to ourselves that we feel like we have to follow, or everyone's going to notice, or everyone's going to judge you, or no one's going to trust you anymore. And it's honestly, it's really silly when you take a step back and think about what you're really making this mean and what you're really telling yourself, or at least that's how I feel about it. So I want to share with you my experience and then hopefully help you apply this to your own business. So today, when I'm recording this, is April 1st, April Fool's Day. Personally, it's never been a favorite of mine. I tend to be pretty gullible. I've gotten better over the years to remember that it's April Fool's Day and to not believe pretty much anything that I hear on this day. But that doesn't make me look forward to the day because I feel like I can't trust anything that comes out of anyone's mouth, so that's not very fun. And I'm also just not very good at pulling pranks. I just feel like I never come up with the best idea. And even when I do, if I try and execute it, I'm a horrible liar. My face shows everything. So I kind of give myself away and it never, so it's never been a personal favorite day of mine. But for whatever reason, I decided that I wanted to do some sort of April Fool's Day sale this year. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. It just sort of hit me and I was just grabbed with the idea and I thought, yeah, I do want to do that. I don't know why, but I just do. And I figured, you know what? I'm going to run with it. Why not? It's a Monday. It seemed like a good day to, run some sort of deal. And at the time that I thought of it, which was last week, I had enough time. And I had kind of put into my mental schedule where I thought I would be able to work on it. And that's just not how my weekend shook out. So it was Easter weekend and I had to do some traveling with a toddler. And so the time that I thought I would have, I just didn't have. And so last night we got home and I was able to sneak off to my office for a little bit. And I said, okay, I'm going to figure out what the heck I'm putting on sale. I'm going to get it all ready to go. I'm going to type up an email and schedule it so that Monday, the day of the sale, rolls around and it's all done and it's all set. And I sat down and it just, I felt like I was trying to run through quicksand is the best way that I can describe it. My brain just didn't want to think, didn't want to work, didn't want to focus. And I was just trying to push it into thinking. And the main reason for this, I think, is just the traveling and the family stuff. I'm an introvert. I think a lot of you that follow me are fellow introverts, although certainly not my whole audience. And it makes me laugh. I'm my own little introverted brain. I'm this is so silly, but I went to 2 back-to-back days of family stuff that I genuinely enjoyed. Don't get me wrong. I love my family and I'm very lucky that I also love my in-laws. It's not even that I was dreading or had a bad time at these events. I had a great time. But 2 days of driving and socializing, and especially, it always drained me, but now taking a toddler and keeping an eye on him in a place that isn't totally toddler proofed, and it was a lot. So I was just completely fried, just exhausted, just mentally done. And I was trying to come up with an idea. And I did manage to come up with 4 ideas that are actually pretty good ideas that I'm pretty excited about. But then I got the ideas down and then I just couldn't pick one. I couldn't commit. I was doing the overthinking thing of well, I don't know. Should I do this one? Should I do that one? Which one should I do? I can't do all of them. They're so different. They'll confuse people. So I need to just pick one. But should I do this one or should I do that one? Well, I kind of like this one the best, but this one would need to happen this week if I'm ever going to do it because it involves something time sensitive, and round and round I would go. And I just was not landing on anything. And I thought about just picking something. I also reached out in my squad chat, which I know you guys have heard me talk about here before, and I just shared my ideas with them to get their feedback. I love giving their feedback. I feel like they're a really great group of people for me to get feedback from, because they're my people, right? They're my customers. They all are actively in my membership. And they're all people that are probably going to be interested in the ideas that I have. And most of them are included for my squad members. If you didn't know that, most of the things that I launch are included for the squad. So if I do any challenges, if I add something new to the shop, it's typically included. If you're ever unsure, you can always ask me. The only things that aren't included, like the merch, because I have to pay for that, and any extra one-on-one time with me, because that does take extra work from me. But anything where I can just share the PDF with them or invite them into the group program, they get to do all of that stuff included in their membership. So I love to get feedback from them, because they're my people, right? They're some of my most engaged people, which I love. And they can also kind of give feedback and think about it objectively, because they're not going to have to spend money if they want to sign up for it. So they gave me some great thoughts, but because there was 4 different choices and because it's a big group of people, of course, there was one answer that seemed to be the most popular, but they were all a little bit all over the board. And so it didn't, not that I necessarily wanted them to make the decision for me. I was just curious to hear their thoughts. And I still felt after that, I wasn't quite sure. And I was still going back and forth. And then I thought about forcing myself to do it last night. And I was just like, you know what? If I do this, I've learned from experience. So I hope that, that you can take this lesson to heart if you need to hear it too. But I've learned from experience that if I try and push through and force myself to do something just to do it, it's not going to sell very well. So yes, I could have just, closed my eyes, pointed my finger at the screen, and whichever of the 4 my finger landed on is what I do. Or, drawn out of a hat or whatever. And this particular case, it might have worked out okay, because I did genuinely think they were all good ideas. But I just know that whenever I don't have that gut feeling of this is the right choice, this is what I should be doing, this feels right, and I'm so excited about it, when I try and force it, it just doesn't sell the way that I know that it could and should. So I said, I'm not going to force myself to do this. And the other thing is that I know if I would have tried to push through last night when I was just feeling so fried, then I would have woken up today still feeling really fried. And to be perfectly transparent with you, I am still feeling a little bit fried, but last night I was like 90% fried, and today I'm like 20% fried. But if I would have forced myself to push through, pick something, set up all the pages, type out the email, whatever needed done last night, I would have probably hit 100% fried by the time I went to bed, and I would have woken up today probably still like 80% fried. And so I've learned that is not going to help me be the most productive in the long term. So I said, you know what? I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to just relax tonight. And then when I wake up tomorrow, I'll feel refreshed and I'll make a decision and I'll be able to write all the email, everything. I knew that if I tried to do it last night, first of all, I would have pushed myself to feeling just too burnt out. And I also knew that it would have taken me hours. This morning, I could have gotten it all ready in probably like 45 minutes. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this to myself. I'm going to just sleep on it and I'll get up in the morning and decide what to do. So I woke up today and still feeling kind of torn, because I like all the ideas. And that's been a recurring problem for me in my business, is that I'm always full of ideas, and they're always ideas that I'm excited about, and I just can't do them all. So I have to pick and choose. And so I was really struggling with this, and I was like, man, I have got to pick something. Like, today is the day. There's no point to doing this sale if I can't get it done today. And then I sort of took a step back and I said, wait, who says? Who cares? What are the rules? Like, why am I putting all this pressure on myself to figure this out today, knowing that I'm feeling pretty fried and I'm just like trying to force it and it's not going very well, when I could just do this tomorrow? Like, why does it have to be today? Yes, because my initial idea was April Fool's Day sale, and today is April Fool's Day. So it would be a little bit silly to announce an April Fool's Day deal tomorrow, but who cares? It's really not that big of a deal. Honestly, I could probably do a funny like April Fool's thing where, I don't know, maybe today I could say I'm not doing an April Fool's deal, and then tomorrow I don't think I would do that. I don't think that's actually that good of an idea, but you know what I mean? Like, there are so many ways to make this work. Like, I'm sitting here putting all this pressure on myself saying it has to be today. It absolutely has to be, because I've decided my initial idea was an April Fool's Day sale, and so it has to be an April Fool's Day sale, which means it has to be a sale and it has to happen on April Fool's Day. And like, no, it doesn't. When I take the step back, says who? Says me But I don't even really think that. I'm just like putting myself into this box and giving myself these rules that no one else cares about. And if I tried to force it and make something be ready for today, but I did a bad job promoting it because I wasn't prepared and I was just rushing around trying to get it done, that's not really going to benefit my audience as much as if I say, hey, it's an April Fool's Day sale that happened a day late. Or I could just drop the whole April Fool's Day idea in general and I could just say, hey, I decided to do this fun new thing this week. This is what I'm launching. This is an idea that I have. It doesn't have to remain attached to April Fool's Day. So there's like a million ways out of this. When I finally had that realization of like, what am I doing to myself? And because I know that you are my people, my fellow overthinkers, I'm sure that you do maybe not this exact thing, but similar things to yourself. And that's why I thought this would be a good episode and why I kind of derailed what I originally planned to talk about today, because I figured if I need to hear this, other people do. So I hope that this is sounding, well, I do and I don't hope this is sounding familiar to you. I hope that it is, because hopefully it's helping you stop doing this to yourself. But I also hope that it doesn't sound familiar to you in the sense that it's not fun to live this way and to put this pressure on ourselves for no reason around these rules that we've created for ourselves that no one else cares about. So I realized I could think about it and maybe that clarity would come to me. And this is like there's kind of a gut feeling that I get when something feels like the right decision. And this will happen for you over time. You may already have it. You may already be pretty tuned into your own, intuition and gut instincts. But if you're not, pay attention to how you feel when you make decisions and then with how things work out. Now, sometimes it's completely out of your control and there's just really not much that you can do about it. But I will tell you that when I look back over the years, when I had that like feeling of certainty and clarity and that gut feeling of this is the right thing to do, it always sold a million times better than when I was just like, I'll try this and let's see what happens, or this is what I think I should be doing. So what I could do is keep thinking about it today. And this is the beauty. I think everyone's brain works this way, but I know that mine definitely does, where when I present it with a problem, so this particular problem that I presented my brain with is I need to decide which of these ideas I want to do first. I need to decide which one I want to do this week. I can do them all. I just need to decide which one I want to do first. My brain will keep kind of working on that in the background. So I'm still open to the idea that anytime throughout today that my brain might be like, okay, we figured it out. And so sometimes I feel like my brain is like separate from me. Obviously it's not, but like sometimes I feel like I'll be like, okay, brain, I need this figured out. Can you work on this? And it'll be like, yep, I'll be back later. And then it kind of goes and does its thing. And then hours, days, weeks later, depending on what the problem is, sometimes it comes back and says, okay, I got it. Here it is. And then I'm like, yes, that is the answer. You probably think I'm nuts. I hope that you guys think this way too, because if you're listening to me right now and you don't operate this way, you're like, wow, I did not know that she was a nutcase, but good to know. But anyway, so I'm open to the thought that I still may achieve that certainty, that clarity, and that gut feeling today. And if I do, I'll run with it. Whenever I have that feeling, I try and run with it as best I can. So I may still get it figured out today, and I may still get it launched by this evening. And you'll not be hearing this until at least tomorrow. That's when it'll be released, and you might be listening to this way down the line. But I might do it tonight, and that's okay. That's cool. If it happens, awesome. I might also come up with something, but not want to put the pressure on myself to get it ready today. And I might decide to do a late April Fool's Day sale and start it tomorrow and run it through the rest of the week. I might decide to wait a few days, or I might decide that I'm going to start it tomorrow still, but it's not going to be April Fool's Day related anymore. All of these are fine because there are no rules. So I want you to remind yourself you're in charge. You get to decide. Now, of course, disclaimer, right? You need to make sure what you're doing is legal. I'm not saying that you can go do whatever the heck you want and there's absolutely no rules or consequences. Your actions can have consequences. So make sure you think through the actions that you want to take and make sure, everything you're doing is legal. Whether you run your own business or I know I have a lot of network marketers in my audience. So, you probably have signed a contract with your company. So make sure you're aware of what can and can't be done in accordance with the contract that you agreed to. It's really important that you know what's in it and that you make sure that you're following it. Because, if you break something in it and they come back at you and you say, well, I didn't know it was in there, no one's going to care. You had it. It's on you to read it. So make sure you know what you agreed to. Make sure you know what you're allowed to do. Not a fun little mention in this episode, but an important mention. Make sure that what you're doing is legal. But outside of that, there are no rules. The amount of times that people have come to me and said, well, I was told that I had to post 4 times a day. Nope. Well, I was told that I had to do this. Nope, you don't. Well, so and so said that this is how we do it, or this is how it's always worked in my company, or, well, this is how people always do it. Okay, that's great. You don't have to do any of that. You can if you want to. I'm not saying that you have to like completely blaze a brand new trail and you can't ever do something the same way as someone else did. You know, a lot of times people do things the same way because it works, and there's nothing wrong with leaning into what works. But this idea that we have to, and that's what I really want you to kind of get out of your mind. Keep in mind what people have told you. It's probably good advice, probably. I mean, I can't say for sure. It really depends on what they told you and who told you and their experience and all of that. But I think that we so easily hear something one time from someone else, and sometimes we don't even understand what they've said. Like, I've had a few times over the years where someone said to me, whether it was in like the squad chat, or I had a call with someone, or, you know, a comment they made where they were like, well, Megan says we have to do it this way. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I never said that. I don't think I've ever told you that there's anything that you have to do. And if you've interpreted anything that I've said in that way, we need to start fresh, because I don't think there's anything that you have to do in your business. I mean, I guess you have to market your business, right? You have to tell people about it in some way. That's about it. You have to you have to show up, whether it's the way that I like to teach and doing it on social media and building your audience and your value and your brand, or whether it's a different way. I don't care. But you do need to tell people about your business if you want them to buy. But how you go about that, how often, who you tell, there's really nothing that you have to do. There's things that work better than others, but even within that, there's things that work differently for different people. And there is no one size fits all. There's no rules, and there's no have to. Okay, so sometimes when we get started, and I think it'll depend a lot on your background. So for those of you that don't know mine, I started in network marketing. I did that for years before I eventually transitioned to coaching. While I was coaching, I have had times where I was 100% doing my own thing. And then also for a few years, I had a contract with a company. So I was not their employee, but I was an independent contractor with them. And as part of that, I signed a contract that I had to follow. So I've been all over the place. I've been part of a company and had a, large contract, and they controlled a lot of the aspects of my business, meaning the products and the pricing and the ingredients and what's on sale and whatnot. I've been 100% in control myself, and then I've been kind of in the, I've been all over the place. So I understand. I think it depends on how you get started and what sort of influences you have early on in your journey, how much you might be struggling with this. If you had early mentors who told you you have to do this and this and this and this and this, and that's what you have to do, and that's how it works, and that's what we all do, and it's always been this way, and you have to do it that way too, then you might be struggling with this a lot more than someone who got started on their own and didn't really have that mentor, didn't have that community, and just kind of was winging it and figuring things out. So depending on your own background, you'll have different experiences with this, but I want you to really think about, what rules am I following in my business? And I want you to really think about this. And I would encourage you to do like a brain dump or some journaling, depending on what you like to do. So I think they're really similar. And this is only my personal interpretation of the two different terms. I think you can use whichever one in whichever way you want to. Again, there's no rules, right? But for me, if I say I'm going to do a brain dump, I'm usually writing a list. I'm not writing in full sentences. I'm just writing down a big list of ideas or thoughts, whatever, in complete sentences. If I say I'm going to be journaling, I'm usually going to write in full sentences and paragraphs and use grammar and like complete thoughts. So for me, that's the only difference, but whatever style connects with you more. But really sit down and think about, what are the rules that I have been following in my business? So this could be things like, I think that here's a good one, the 80-20 rule. Have you heard this one? So many people are taught that their content should be 80% personal and 20% business. First of all, I don't agree with those percentages. But second of all, what an exhausting way to live. And I know that because I did it. Early on, I tried to live and die by the 80-20 rule because I was also taught that rule. And it's like you become that meme with a woman doing the like calculus and around her head, right? You're trying to what percentage have I done this week? Can I talk about my business? I don't think I can. I've already talked too much about it. And it's like, you guys, please let this stuff go. If someone has told you that you have to post a certain amount, if someone has told you you have to post certain days of the week, if someone has told you that your videos have to be over a certain length or under a certain length, if someone has told you that you have to be doing this, you have to be doing basically anything, especially if it's prefaced with you have to do it this way, you can probably go ahead and throw that right in the trash. Okay. And I don't mean to say like everything that your mentor or your leader has told you should go in the trash. Like you get to pick and choose for your own business, but anything like that where it's a one size fits all, like this is a rule, this is how it always works, almost like an ultimatum or any sort of pressure that you've been putting on yourself, free yourself from that, okay? So many of us start a business because we want freedom, and then we create a business that could not feel less free. We think that we have to post a certain amount and say certain things and make sure we're not annoying people and look at this and look at that and I have to take a picture this way and I have to use this graphic and I have to do this and I have to do that. And it's craziness. You get to decide. Your business is your own and there are no rules other than the ones that you set for yourself. So I want you to really spend some time thinking about what rules am I operating under for my business? And for the record, I don't think all rules are a bad thing. I think that it depends on your personality. I think that some people really thrive under a more strict structure and some people feel very trapped and it really stifles their creativity. And the more that you get to know yourself, the more that you can benefit from this and the more that you can kind of figure out what's going to work best for you, because I think sometimes it's a happy medium, right? I know for me, and I've talked about this before and I'm sure I'll talk about it again, but I rarely do well at one extreme or another when it comes to anything. When it comes to managing my own time or structuring my own schedule for working my business, if I try and get too strict, I don't stick to it. But if I try and just wing it, I don't get enough done. I needed to land somewhere in the middle. And I think somewhere in the middle is the answer for almost all things in life and in business. So many of us try and get on one extreme or the other or see it's like us versus them kind of mentality. And I think most of us just need to land somewhere in the middle for most things. But really think about what rules have I set for myself? And what can I free myself from? How can I stop thinking that it has to be done a certain way and just do what I want to do and just show up in a way that feels fun and just say what I want to say and post what I want to post and do what I want to do and take the photos that I want to take and whatever, right? I know that I have a client that I've worked with for a long time who was told by a previous mentor that she couldn't talk about her faith at all in her content. And when we started working together, and I was like, oh no, I think you can talk about it as long as you talk about it consistently and as long as you talk about it in a way that isn't trying to convince other people to think the way that you think or trying to put down anyone who thinks differently. I think as long as you're just kind of sharing your own faith, that's fine. Now, you'll probably naturally build an audience of people that share your faith. And as long as you're cool with that, then there's nothing wrong with it. There are no rules. You can talk about whatever you want to talk to or whatever you want to talk about. You can talk about controversial things if you want to. My perspective on talking about controversial stuff, I think you either need to go all in or not touch it, is what I tend to think for most people. So what you don't want to do is like build this brand that's very positive and inspiring and inclusive and then turn around and randomly share like a really angry political meme that basically says everyone who thinks differently than you is an idiot. And it's like, what? I thought we were inclusive and inspiring and lifting each other up, but now because I happen to see a political issue different than you, I'm a total idiot. And then if you never talk about that again and you go back to your normal stuff, you've just turned off a lot of people. But if there is a controversial topic or something political or something that you are passionate enough about that you want to go all in on it and make it part of your brand, you can do that. That's the only time that I think that people really kind of shoot themselves in the foot is when they don't normally talk about that kind of stuff and then they come in and drop a really controversial opinion and then try to not talk about that stuff again. And it's like, whoa, hold on. What just happened here? But you can totally talk about whatever you want to as long as you incorporate it into your business and as long as you make peace with the fact that because you talk about this stuff, some people might not want to work with you. And that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you feel strongly enough that you only want to work with people that align with you politically, fine. Talk about your politics all day long. You'll probably attract people who think the same as you. And that's fine. And you can totally build your business that way. So I think that there's a lot of opinions And you get to decide for yourself. And that's my whole point of what I'm talking about here, is that you get to decide for yourself how you want to do this. How do you want to work your business? How do you want to show up? How do you want to build your brand? What do you want to talk about? How often do you want to talk about it? You get to decide all of that. And I think what happens is we get so worried about choosing wrong or feel like we don't know enough. So then we turn to other people and we do what they say. And then one day we wake up and we've built this business and we're like, wait, how did I get here? Or we're trapped, right? We put ourselves in this cage of I have to do it this way or I have to do it that way because so-and-so said so. And so I just want to remind you, there are no rules. You can do an April Fool's Day sale in May if you want to. It might be a little bit of an odd choice. Some people might look at you and say, I'm a little bit confused why you're doing this, but you can do it. You can do whatever you want to. So stop feeling like you have to do a certain thing or that you have to not do a certain thing. You get to decide what works for your business and what doesn't. There are so many things over the years that people have tried to tell me that I need to do. And I try and listen with an open mind. I think it's really important to make sure that you're coachable. And I should probably do a whole episode about making sure that you're coachable. But what I mean by coachable is if someone is trying to give you advice or give you feedback, if you instantly start defending why you were doing it or explaining, oh, well, no, this is why I do that, or telling them why they're wrong, you're not coachable. I do not mean that if someone gives you advice, you have to instantly implement every single thing that they've said. But if you don't even take a second to be open to what they're saying and think about if it's a good suggestion, if you just instantly launch into why they're wrong and why you need to keep doing it the way you've been doing, even though you've just said what you're doing isn't working, then you're not very coachable, So I try really hard to make sure that I remain coachable. But at the end of the day, I have always listened to that gut feeling that I was talking about in the beginning. And all of my best decisions, all of the things that brought me the most growth and the most money and the most just every good thing that has come from my business has been when I really leaned into that gut feeling of this is what I want to be doing or this is not what I want to be doing. So if you have a mentor that you're working with who makes you feel badly or tries to tell you that you have to do something a certain way, especially if you try and tell them I don't want to do it this way or this doesn't feel right to me and they're trying to tell you no, you have to do it anyway. Or my favorite, you're just not serious about your business if you're not willing to do this thing that your gut is telling you is wrong. Like, what is that? I've had enough people tell me that over the years. Or if you don't buy my super expensive program, you're not serious, or, all of that stuff. And it's like, no, that's not really what's going on here. But just remember, there are no rules other than the rules that you create for yourself. And so what I want you to do for your action step this week, I want you to really sit down and think about what are the rules that you have created for your business. And if you want to start small, identify one area where you might be living by someone else's rules. And then what I want you to do is write a new rule to replace it. So when I say rule, just to give you an example, let's say that one of your rules is that you have to post 3 times a day every single day. This is a rule that someone has told you and you've been doing it for a long time now. And after listening to this, you say, you know what? I don't really want to post 3 times a day. I find it really hard and really exhausting, but I've just been doing it because someone else told me that I needed to. Okay, that's a perfect example of a way that you are living by someone else's rule. So what do you want your rule to be? And your rule can have a lot of flexibility built into it. So your rule could be something like, I post 1 to 2 times a day. Do you see how I said 1 to 2? I didn't say I post 2 times a day every single day and I'm a failure if I don't do it. I said 1 to 2 to give you that flexibility. Or I post at least 6 times a week. Or I post, every weekday at least once. And if I have another idea, then I will post a second time. Do you see how these are all still technically rules, but they allow you to kind of work with yourself? They're not as rigid and they're probably going to make you a lot happier in the long term, because I've talked to a lot of people who listen to other people's rules, built a business, a successful business, sure, but when they looked around, they reached their goal and they looked around and they were like, I'm miserable. I don't like this business, or it's not sustainable, or I have no time to do the things that I wanted to do. You need to really just make sure that the rules that you're setting are your own rules and that they're going to get you where you want to go in the way that you want to get there. Okay, so I hope that whoever else needed to hear this, that it reaches you, whether it's today when this episode comes out or whether it's a year from now. But it's so easy, especially for us people pleasers, I have always been a people pleaser. And so this is a hard one for me to be like, but they said I have to do it. And I've also always been kind of a rule follower. Not every single rule. I've always had sort of this weird thing where if I think a rule is stupid, I won't necessarily feel like I have to follow it. But if I think it's a good rule that makes sense, then I'm definitely a rule follower. So it was hard for me to not, I had someone else telling me this is what you need to do. And so I naturally want to follow the rules. And I also am a people pleaser. So I want to make this person happy and not disappointed in me. And so I was trying to do all of these things that people were telling me that I had to do. And it wasn't working. And I was miserable. And when I decided to shake all of that off and write my own rules and show up the way that I wanted to show up, that is when my business really started to take off. And that is what I want for you. So really think about, where are you living by rules that you don't even care about? And how can you write your own rules instead? I hope this episode inspires you to go take action on something you have been overthinking. As much as I wish you could, you cannot think your way to success, so promise me you're going to go take some action today. Head over to overthinkingentrepreneur.com to find all the cool stuff I've made for you over the years, like my free guide to getting more social media engagement and my Facebook group, Dynamite Entrepreneurs, which has a free course on social media basics.